your views and opinions on the present ecumenical movement and the Orthodox possible involvement in that?
Well, I think it's a great tragedy because it is based upon the assumption that nobody has the right faith. Therefore, we go, supposedly the Orthodox go to these ecumenical meetings to confess the right faith. But you see, they don't. If they do, it's just sort of a minority view. No one listens to them. It's not, in fact, the Orthodox who go. They themselves talk about the tragedy of the Orthodox involvement because nobody listens to them, nobody understands. It's obvious the Orthodox are just dragged in because they are a big body which is influential. And they are not giving the truth to people who need it. Therefore, we participate. Well, our church doesn't, but some of the jurisdictions do. They participate in prayers with the Roman Catholics or the Lutherans, and we know that those people are participating in prayers with the Methodists and Unitarians, and they are participating in prayers with the Buddhists and maybe even Satanists somewhere along the line. And you see that there's an idea that everything is relative. There's no real, firm idea of what is truth. And it's a betrayal of the truth to participate in that without, we shouldn't participate, we should distinctly say what is wrong with being one in faith with them, because we aren't one in faith. The assumption is, in fact, it's said openly now that there's no real difference between Roman Catholicism and Orthodoxy. And we know that there's a crucial difference, and there's a matter of life and death. There are people who suffered for that difference, who were martyred by the Roman Catholics for the sake that they would not change their faith. And we have that true faith, which the world needs. And therefore, we should rather go out and convert them, rather than take part in these assemblies which assume that there's no real difference. In that respect, I'd say it's a great tragedy. Orthodox shouldn't be participating, not at all. And the fact that they do participate is very dissatisfying to people who have any Orthodox conscience. And the ones that don't have much of an Orthodox conscience are simply going to sell out eventually. And they will be one with the Pope, who will be one with the Protestants, who will be one with the Unitarians and the Buddhists. And that's all preparing for the reign of Antichrist, who will unite everyone in one. Doesn't mean that everybody's going to believe the same thing. Everybody will seem to believe what they want and be tolerant of everybody else and all bow down to the Antichrist. So definitely the Ecumenical Movement, I think, is one of the signs of the times that we're preparing for this great world ruler who's going to come not in order to protect the Orthodox faith, but to be telling everybody, enjoy yourself. Just bow down to me and enjoy yourself. That's the whole end of it. Yes?
I agree. I see that we need to be aware of the signs of the times. But why do you feel that it's the last times now? Or I mean, it seems to me that things could get a lot worse and stay a lot worse for a lot longer.
Well, the last times I don't say sort of exact how many years or anything like that. The signs are multiplying.
What was the question?
He says, why do I think it's the last times? He thinks perhaps things will get a lot worse than they are. Of course, they will get worse. They'll keep getting worse. And in the history of the world, things have been getting worse. And sometimes there have even been times when it looked as if the end might be close. And for various reasons, perhaps men repented, changed themselves, and so the end was perhaps put off. And it could happen again like that. They change themselves, and this whole abnormality in life changes. And
no, I think the answer is that they have to explain about the phenomena of apostasy. That's what we mean by the last time.
Yes, there's a whole
term of apostasy.
There are a whole set of characteristics which are to prevail at the end of the world, including the fact that the gospel is preached to all the world. And now virtually every dialect, even in Africa, has at least one gospel in their dialect. And all the major languages now have at least the New Testament. And that's one sign. Another sign is the possibility for there to be one world ruler, which only in our times is a very real possibility. Another sign is what's happening in Israel. In fact, the Jews possess the temple grounds. The temple must be built for Antichrist. It's the first time in 2,000 years that has happened. That's an obvious sign that something might be close. And the fact that sort of people are being pushed together into one world civilization. And this apostasy, that is that Christian values are being squeezed out of society. And not by pagans, but by people who used to be Christians. That's what the apostasy means, the falling away from something which you once had. So all those characteristics are very strikingly true in our times. You can't necessarily point to sort of a set number of years, but it looks very close to where things are going. Oh yes, and the fact, yes, the Jews who are also, like there's two things about the Jews. One, that they are looking for the world ruler. Here's the notice. Yes, this is the notice published in the New York Times a few months ago. Well, the very fact that this man recently published in the New York Times and all big newspapers in the country, the fact that he's going to appear on television, it says, Christ is coming. He will appear on television. sometime in the summer. And you simply have to prepare yourself and accept it, because this is the end times. And this one is about, this is actually a more secular kind of thing, but Jews who assume, it says, at that time, the troubled times before the coming of the Messiah, your people shall be delivered, everyone who shall be found inscribed in the book. So it says here, you got to sign up to get your name put in a book, the Torah book. You pay a certain amount of money, and your name will be inscribed in this book, which will get you prepared for the coming of the Messiah. Of course, it's out to, they're out to make money, whatever their purpose is, unless they use this sort of thing in the air that the Messiah is close. You can put it in Hebrew letters to convince you. Jews of the world tonight prepare for the Messiah. And there's a second thing, that is, at the end of the world, the Jews are to be converted to Christ, at least the faithful remnant. And we see that's already happened. That is, yeah, the prophet Elias is going to come. In fact, I know pious Jews, not the ones in Israel, sort of, they're very secular. Although the Orthodox Judaism is their official religion, but they're very sort of worldly and secular. But there are many pious people who won't accept the Messiah until the prophet Elias comes. Like some specify he has to come on a white horse. But anyway, they're very sort of fundamental that way, that Elias will come and tell them where the Messiah is. And we believe Elias is going to come and say the Messiah already came and you missed him, now worship him. And of course with that they're going to accept. But already many Jews are being converted. In fact, in Russia, most people coming out, many people coming out are Jews, and a large number of them are converted to Christianity. In fact, people who are there say that the largest movement among people to be converted in Russia is among the Jews, because it's one of the signs of the times also. But all those point to this as facts, that the times do seem to be close. Yes?
Question. Have you heard the latest prophecy on the end of the world, 1994?
No, I haven't heard that one. But of course, it says there will be false Christs, and also there will be false Antichrists and false prophecies and everything to get you mixed up. You wait for 1994, it doesn't happen, therefore you give up the ship and decide that nothing's going to happen. Maybe it's going to happen in 1996. We're fooled. We don't place our hope in a date, because no one knows the date. It's just we prepare ourselves, and in fact the wise person is preparing himself every day for that, because we ourselves will die. You prepare for your own death. And the end of the world is simply sort of on the worldwide scale, that same thing we're preparing for our death. So when we prepare for that, it isn't that we should be hysterical or sell all our property and begin to sit on a mountain someplace waiting for the end. It means we're supposed to be prepared for it, which means more fervent in our Christianity. If you're more fervent, when Christ indeed comes, or when the temptation comes first, this Antichrist, you'll be more prepared to oppose it and more ready to meet Christ when it comes. So when we say about the end of the world, it's not to scare people or to set some kind of date which we have to meet, some deadline, but to prepare people to withstand temptation and to meet Christ. And that's the state in which the church should always be in. That's the way it was in the time of the apostles. And wherever there's fervency among people, that's the way it is again. We are aware that the end is close. Yes?
What is like the definition of the Antichrist? I know it's not really the devil or a demon or something, but it's like the spirit of the Antichrist. What is it?
Well, Antichrist is several things. One, it is the man who will come at the very end of the world. He will be a man. And the various characteristics of him that fathers have written various treatises on the subject, describing what he will be like. He will be a man, a Jew, the tribe of Dan, will rule in Jerusalem, will be in the temple of Jerusalem, which will be reconstructed for him, and be the world leader before whom everybody bows down, because they recognize that he is religious and pious and kind and loving and all those. That's why this ET thing is dangerous, because Antichrist will be precisely that. He will evoke emotions of love and kindness and everything else. But it will be on the basis of some kind of weird thing that is not worshiping the true God, but eventually worshiping him. So he's a man who will come at the end of the world, and when he is finally destroyed, the whole world comes to its end. But besides that, St. John says there are many antichrists. It's everyone who participates in this spirit of, well, first of all, as St. John in one of his epistles defines it, denying that Christ has come in the flesh. This is the spirit of Antichrist. And so everyone who does that partakes in this spirit. And we can see in the world today there is a spirit of Antichrist, going against Christ, against the church. And all that spirit is the spirit of Antichrist. It finally achieves its form, its incarnation, like it, as it were, in the one man who will come at the end and imitate Christ. Undoubtedly he'll be 30 years old when he comes to power and do many of the very same things that Christ did. And it will be some kind of demonic marvel by occult power. So he's an anti means actually in place of Christ. It means both against Christ and in place of Christ, a substitute Christ, for those who do not know who Christ is.
Brother Seraphim, but how can one I think it's interesting to put this in parallel with the saying of Jesus that good deeds cannot emanate from the bad source, right?
Yes,
How does it work with Antichrist? I mean, if
because his deeds are good in seeming. They seem to be good. But he's doing kind deeds in order to trap men. But we see that in everyday life. That when you use some kind of thing which evokes love, when you use kindness in order to trick somebody into doing something for you, then it becomes, in itself, it might be good, and somebody outside might even become instructed by seeing that. But the man in his intent is doing evil. And therefore that evil that's good becomes submerged in the evil he's doing.